That is not great. Today on Juicy Media, we're gonna find out if more expensive means more better. What we're gonna be comparing is the B&T RBS SQD, likely one of my least favorite suppressors, against one of my favorites, the PTR Vent 2. Both of these suppressors are 9mm. The B&T is a aluminum suppressor with more of your traditional baffle stack. It is, however, reduced back pressure along with the Vent, and the Vent is 3D printed titanium. So what we're gonna find out is, do you get more suppressor for more money? Now, as a disclaimer, the B&T I purchased with my own money. I do not have a relationship with the company. As far as the PTR goes, I do have a relationship with them, but they did not send this to me, and they are not paying me to make this video. The Vent 2 was actually provided to me by the boys at Bauer Precision, so huge shout out to those guys. If you are in the market for any airsoft accessories, head on over there and check those guys out. I may or may not have a coupon code coming for them, and you should definitely not go use that when the time comes. They did allow me to borrow this suppressor. They as well are not paying me to make this video, and I do not get to keep this suppressor. All right, so let's get into the sound test. So for the test, I did use Subsonics. For those, I'm using the Cheat Codes 147 grain Subsonic 9mm, and then for the Supersonics, I am using CCI 115 grain Blazers. Now for the host, I am using my beautiful H&K SP5 with the Lee Sporting trigger group down there. That doesn't necessarily make a difference in the sound clip, but I figured I'd let you guys know anyways. So let's roll it. Okay, so that summarizes the sound test. Now let's talk about it. The Vent 2, I do believe on Subsonics, is noticeably quieter. So much so that I would say, as the shooter, I would not want to plink around with the B&T, especially on subs or even on Subsonics, for any extended periods of time without ear pro. The Vent 2, however, I do believe that you could shoot for quite a bit without any issues. Now, as far as Supersonics, that's where the difference gets a little bit tighter. Through the screen that you're watching this on, it's probably going to be very difficult to tell, but I do believe that the Vent 2 is quieter with supers by a smaller margin. Okay, now looking at these two suppressors, they are very similar in length, but what they are not is similar in volume. As you can see, the B&T is quite a bit wider than the Vent. So you would think in your head, looking at these two, that the B&T would be that much quieter than the Vent, but that is just not the case. Okay, so now moving on to back pressure. On a 9mm cartridge, it's very difficult to tell. So I did try to do the same test that I do with all of my suppressors to tell whether or not one was gassier than the other. However, it just didn't seem to matter. You couldn't really tell, and having shot both of these for probably, I got about maybe 800 or so rounds out of the Vent 2. and probably about 1,500 or so rounds out of the B&T. I would consider the back pressure to be a tie. 9mm doesn't have a tendency to give that much back pressure anyways, and especially in comparison to 5.56. But in lieu of the back pressure testing, what I went ahead and did is an accuracy test. So let's go ahead and talk about that. So for the accuracy test, what I went ahead and did is I stepped it out to 30 yards. I used a tripod, and we are shooting both the supersonic and the subsonics. So I went ahead and did 5-round groupings out of each. Now we're not necessarily looking for a tighter grouping. I wasn't necessarily taking my time with shooting, but I wanted to show you guys the major problem with my B&T can. The mounting system is not solid, and it does not have a good lockup to it. So what that yields, or what that leads to, is rounds being sent 12, 18 inches in a direction that you don't want it to. It's completely unpredictable because the can jumps around on the end of your gun. And in the accuracy test, you can see that the first round fired out of the subsonic grouping for the B&T, one of the rounds went flying down and to the right, almost off the target. That was not me, that was not a flyer. That is the mounting system of the B&T. Now that, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable for a suppressor company that openly brags about how long they have been making suppressors.
I mean, we're one of the largest, if not the largest suppressor manufacturer in the world, been at it for 32 years, you know.
And the tri-lug system has been around, I believe, longer than B&T has even been making cans. So this accuracy test should show you nothing other than that the B&T is not even safe to be shooting. You could end up hitting something that you're not intending to hit and sending a ricochet somewhere you're not intending to send rounds. That is dangerous. To show you how unstable the mounting system is on this B&T, I have a 9mm bore alignment rod in here. The thread protector for the SP5 is tightened down with red Loctite, so that's not the problem. If you were to take that off, it would be even worse. So it's on there, it's snug, but let me show you any which direction you wobble it, it makes contact with that alignment rod. That is not great. Now, for those of you who might be wondering, I did try this suppressor out on specific B&T guns. It does the same exact thing. I also went into my local gun store, grabbed a equivalent, the same exact suppressor off of the shelf, and I put it on several different tri-lug guns, and it did the same exact thing. I also have the same exact can in the compact version, and that suppressor does the same exact thing. I'm guessing this is some sort of manufacturing issue, and in B&T's defense, I have not reached out to them to fix it. I know they have great customer service. I'm sure they would be willing to work with me to fix it, but for this to have slipped out of their factory and seemingly be an issue with many of their cans, I don't believe that to be an acceptable problem to have. So that's the mounting system on the B&T. Let's talk about it on the Vent 2. Now, to show the same exact test, if you come on in here, I have a tri-lug adapter on the Vent 2, and I will try and move it around to make contact with it. It moves still, but it does not touch that alignment rod, and I'm putting a whole lot more force into it than the B&T. The other advantage of the mounting system for the Vent 2, this is a 1.125, I believe, by 28 thread pitch for the suppressor itself. So what that allows you to do is that allows you to throw, I just have my Silencer Co. thread adapters and the piston system for my Omega 9K. Those thread right in. So what that allows you to do is run the Vent 2 here on a pistol. The B&T, however, you cannot do that. It is a tri-lug and tri-lug only mounting system. You cannot remove this, to my knowledge at least. You cannot remove this system, and you are stuck with whatever has tri-lug. Speaking of putting the Vent 2 on a pistol, how does that sound? Obviously, this is not necessarily part of the comparison, as the B&T cannot go on a pistol, but I figured I'd let you guys know either way. I have never shot a pistol suppressor that, you know, like shooting an AR with your standard buffer spring, you can hear a twang. I've never heard that twang out of a pistol before. That is how quiet this thing is. This, I'm gonna make this statement now and set the standard. This is John Wick quiet. Now, I did do a flash test with both of these suppressors running both subsonic and the supersonic ammo. So I'll go ahead and roll that now. To summarize the flash test here, I do believe that the Vent 2 did just a little bit better. Both of them still throw some sparks, but they are not noticeable to the human eye. I would say it almost looked like the subsonics had a little bit more sparking than the supersonics, which was kind of interesting to me, but neither of them had any noticeable visual sparking coming out of it. Obviously, we are looking through night vision, which you're going to see much more than the naked eye, but I do think that the Vent 2 overall did just a tad bit better than the B&T. Also, for clarification here, if you have a B&T, RBS, SQD, and yours has been great to you, that's awesome. I am happy for you. I actually love B&T. I love their guns, but in my experience with their suppressors, I have been pretty underwhelmed. Like I mentioned earlier, I bought this one and the compact version. And the compact version is pretty awful. Even on subsonic ammo, it will ring your ears while you are shooting it. So given all of the data that I have, I went and compared other identical cans. I checked the mounting system on those. I doubt they would sound any different. And I've also heard some feedback from other people who own these things that they're just not quiet. They are reduced back pressure, but just because of that, or just because they're flow-through design, doesn't mean that they have to be loud, as I've proven with the Vent series of cans. So I just wanted to get that out there so people don't think that I hate B&T. I love their guns, but when it comes to their suppressors, my experience has not been as good. So to answer the question, does more expensive mean more better? I think so. In this case, all things considered, I really expected more out of this B&T suppressor. Given that it is such a large can, I did expect it to be much quieter. I would consider this thing, at least with subsonic ammo, which is what I primarily shoot, I would consider this to be closer to the sound of my Omega 9K than I would the sound of the Vent 2. Mounting system aside, I really just thought that this thing would be a better overall suppressor. I understand there are many more on the market that I could be comparing, cheaper suppressors and expensive ones. I'm doing what I have with the things that I own or can use or have access to. So if you have other ideas or cans that I should put head to head in this series, let me know down in the comments below. Other than that, thank you guys so very much for watching, and catch us on the next one, which should be, I believe, shotguns, cheap versus expensive. We'll see you then.